Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour podcast. I am Kyle Anthony, your host for today. We are talking UFC Vegas 111, headlined by Gabriel Bonfim and Randy Brown. We're going to be breaking down 3 plays here on the show today. Now, I had to cut the show a little bit shorter, a little bit busy day for me, but we will have an action-packed show next weekend at UFC 322. Great card from a betting perspective. This card also very good, a little bit under the radar, I think, for a lot of people, but some great betting opportunities. I do have a 5% play up for clients right now, 3 plays in total, and we'll be adding to that as we get closer to fight night. Now, last weekend, I would probably need to do a whole nother show by itself to discuss last weekend. I think everybody's really kind of covered the situation there. We were cashing bets, feeling good about it. Isaac Delgarian costed us 2 units. It was a play that would have closed out a nice little parlay for us there. And also him losing costed us the hero parlay. It would have been the 3rd leg that would have cashed. Missed out on that as well. But if you did bet at Caesar Sportsbook, you did get your money back on that bet. And if you did the hero there, you also got a payday as well. But we missed on that one, as well as we did miss on Ante D'Elia, which was, I thought D'Elia was going to go out there, run through him. Once he finally threw those combinations, he was landing. Thought the fight was over. Celebration. We got the knockout. And hey, wait, he's sitting on the stool. They're talking to him. The coaches are talking to him, which is illegal when the fight is stopped. You can't talk to your coaches or sit down on the stool. They allow all of that. Looked like I was probably, hey, maybe we're just going to get the no decision. They restart it. He gets knocked out. Not the greatest showing. Just the ball didn't bounce our way this weekend or last weekend there. So kind of crazy situation overall. But we have been cashing tickets. We have been feeling good, and we are going to do it this weekend. I do have that 5% play up right now for clients, as well as look down in the description. You will see Caesar Sportsbook offer for new users. Now, with that being said, let's dive into the main event of the evening between Gabriel Bonfim and Randy Brown. Now, you got Gabriel sitting around minus 180. On the comeback here, we've got Randy Brown plus 150. Now, you got Gabriel Bonfim, who is really a well-rounded fighter overall. The guy does have some striking. He was a pro boxer in Brazil, so he's got those credentials. And also, his main path there is going to be his grappling, his wrestling, and really that submission game overall. I mean, this guy, once he moves forward, once he gets those takedowns, he's very opportunistic. He's going to hunt for it very quickly. Out of his 18 victories, 13 come by submission, and he's absolutely dangerous, especially in those early rounds. This guy comes forward, he crashes the pocket, he really has good takedowns as well as good top control, and he's going to have that high pace right out the gate. Now, Randy on the other side here is a tall, rangy striker. As we all know here, he's very good striker. He really works that jab very well. I think he's going to really need to utilize that jab in order to keep that space, keep that distance, pepper out the jab, has good, fast, combinations overall. He's very technical, and I do think there are some things that he's going to be able to do well. The issue here for Randy Brown is the fact that he fights off his back foot. And going back watching tape, I don't like seeing that, especially when you're about to go up against somebody like Bonfim. But, he doesn't like pressure. He fights off the back foot, and I get why. He wants to really utilize his range. He wants to stay at distance, stay at space. Again, work out his reach, work out his length a little bit, have those front kicks, mix in the combinations. And, he does that. And if he can do that for 5 rounds on Bonfim, it's going to be a very competitive fight. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a competitive fight. But Bonfim's a guy who is going to crash the pocket. He's going to come forward. He's going to consistently look for those takedowns. He's going to look to win positionally there. And I don't think he's going to really mess around here. I don't think he's going to take his time and let's see where this goes. I think he's going to do what he normally does, which is push the pace and move forward. And the path of least resistance here, no doubt, is looking for those takedowns. And, Randy Brown does support, a nice takedown defense rate. I believe it's like 70% defense. That's good. But the issue is once he's on his back, Randy Brown really just is a fish out of water. He's a guy that is just, he's like a turtle on his back. He can't get up. He has no real get-up game. He has no ability to kind of scramble, get back to his feet. He struggles with it. And maybe it's his length. Maybe it's just, he just has the inability to do it, or his strength. But I do think that when it's on the ground, it's going to be one-way traffic big time. And I think that, if he gets it to the ground, it could either be the whole round, banking the round for Bonfim, or getting that submission. I just don't really see him getting back up once he's flattened out on his back. Now, the line did open up here around minus 300 at some books there. And, we have seen money consistently kind of come in here on Randy Brown. And I get it. If you're taking Randy Brown at some juicy plus money, a while ago when this line was wide, I don't blame you. I definitely don't blame you there. But I do think the market is a little bit overreacting to the fight against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I really do think that you go back, you watch that fight, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, he is, in his 40s now. And, this is a guy that, has fought a lot of the top level guys and has been around for a very long time. And that's the thing, he is very experienced. He has some of the best footwork and distance management in the division. I mean, he is just very tough puzzle to figure out. He's very tough to kind of get inside on. He's consistently moving. He's always light on his feet. And it's a tough situation for a lot of fighters, especially if you're just kind of looking for those takedowns. He's very, he's hip to it. He's ready he knows what's kind of going to go on. And even early, Bonfim did find some success. He was able to get takedowns. And as the fight did go on, you did see Wonderboy was landing. Wonderboy landed a nice head kick. He mixed it up a little bit. His striking is much better. We're talking about just kickboxing, pure kickboxing really does favor Thompson. And it was a tough setup for him there. But even with all of the adversity he kind of had to go through, still, Bonfim had 5 takedowns with 5 minutes of control time and still got the victory. Very close, but did get the victory there. And I do think that's where this goes here. I do think that, Bonfim is going to be able to find those takedowns. He's going to be able to, really leverage some of that and mix it up a little bit here. Now, where I'm going with this is I do like Bonfim, obviously, here, but what I like here is the double chance to get yourself a little bit better of a number here by submission or by points. And I think this is a nice spot here where by submission, I think if he wins, there is a high probability there. That's sitting around, plus 170-ish, somewhere around there. And I don't think that's a bad price. The double chance submission by points is sitting around pick'em, sitting around minus 115. I don't mind that price at all. And, out of his 18 victories, 13 are by submission, 2 are by decision. The last time that Bonfim had a knockout was back in 2021 in LFA. And I just don't really think that he's going to get it here. As he's moving up, as he's facing tougher guys, he's not going to be able to run through everybody. It's just, again, it could happen here. He could go out there and take Randy Brown down in that first round and find the finish. But out of his last 3 victories in the UFC, 2 are by decision here. I know, obviously, this is a 5-rounder, but I think there's opportunity here for Bonfim to win this on the scorecards, because if he could win those first 2 rounds and then pick up one later, and even if he gets tired, I still think he finds success there. So I am going Gabriel Bonfim by double chance, submission, or points, minus 115. And the next one here we're going to talk about is going to be Marco Tulio. He is minus 185 on the comeback. Here we have CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan, plus 154. Now you got CLD, who is, a good striker, a good rangy striker overall. He's an athlete. And the one thing that you see this guy do, he's going to do a lot of aerial attacks. He's going to jump. He's going to spin. He's going to, he has that ability because he is such an athlete, and he can mix it up very well. He's light on his feet also. He has good distance management. He definitely has some speed. Once he lets those hands go, he's able to go out there, land some big shots, and there are some opportunities there for him. The biggest issue for me here is those spinning things that he does. He goes to the well too much. It's almost like that's kind of the only thing that he really looks to do. He wants to be flashy. He wants to have these big moments. And even when these don't work, even there's been spots where he's spinning around doing some dumb shit and he still goes to it. He'll go right back to it. He'll spam it even more. And those kinds of things, I think, can work against lower level fighters. I'm not saying that Tulio is this elite level fighter, but there are some of those guys that it's going to work against. And I think he has no real process to his striking. I think his striking is overrated. I think it's, again, if he can land a jumping knee or something spinning, sure, that could be an out card. But besides for that, I don't really see where he finds success in this fight at all. I just don't really see it. I was never big on CLD. Early on, I thought, hey, this guy's got some potential. I think he's really just not very good. I just don't really think he is. And you got Tulio here again, who is a guy that is an absolute powerhouse. He's going to come forward. He's very aggressive, and he's a guy that's going to march forward, be in your face, throw big shots. And the thing about it also is that he's going to be very confident in that. He's going to come forward. He's going to stay in your face. He's going to throw big shots. I don't think he's going to be very worried about what's coming back at him from CLD, because CLD, yes, he does have some fast hands, but he doesn't have power. He's not a guy that, again, besides some of this the wacky shit that he's going to do, just standing in the pocket throwing, he doesn't have that kind of power. I think that that's massive advantage here for Tulio, especially, again, in the apex cage, if he's looking to march forward. And you're going to have somebody like CLD who's going to want the space, another guy who's going to want space, who's going to want to work his striking at range, want to mix it up. And he's going to struggle with that forward pressure. We've even seen CLD in certain spots where he's pressured. He'll literally turn his entire body and run away. You don't really see that happen very much at this level, but he does it. And you've seen it multiple times that he's kind of done these kind of awkward running away, or, I just don't really think he is a well put together MMA fighter. And I also do think that, if he can't get any of those spinning things going, he's up against the fence. He is going to have to deal, phone booth fight with Tulio, who's going to have the big time advantage, the big time power. And if he's got his back up against the fence taking damage, I don't really see where CLD finds success at any point. And I also do think that you can have Tulio look to mix in some takedowns. I think he can mix that in and really find opportunities. And as the fight goes on, a lot of times you see CLD will get sloppy. Early again, he's going to have some explosive movements. But really, like outside, I feel like the first, 6 minutes or so, this guy, he gets even more sloppy. I think that, again, is going to offer opportunities here for Tulio to land something very, very big as you see CLD start to slow down, start to get even more wild than he already is. And Tulio's a finisher. Out of his 14 victories, 11 come inside the distance. Now, 10 of them are by knockout. But this is a spot here where I do like inside the distance as a safer play here. Now, I know that, the knockouts like plus 260, plus 265. But if you do inside the distance on Tulio, that's sitting around plus 180. I like the price there. And even if I do think that there is a path here where if Tulio is can't really get in front of CLD's running away, he's on his bike, he's working at range, Tulio's going to be looking for takedowns. And I think that materializes because he's going to have the strength. He's going to have the physicality advantage. I think he gets this fight to the ground. He gets control time. And if he's on top, the ground and pound is going to be available. And also the submission could be available. So I don't really think this gets to the judges' scorecards here. I think that Tulio does put him away. Again, I'm not very high on CLD overall. And I do think he finds that finish. So I'm going Marco Tulio to get the job done inside the distance at plus 180. And the last one here we're going to talk about is going to be Jacqueline Cavalcanti. She is minus 265 in the comeback. We have Mayra Bueno Silva. She is plus 225. Now, there's no doubt that Cavalcanti, is a talented rising, prospect in the division. She's got solid striking overall. She does have some good kickboxing, and she's going to be the better striker between these two females. There's no doubt about it. You've got Mayra, who is a little more plotting, a little bit more slower developing combinations. She's really looking to get the fight to the ground, and she will have the power advantage. So there is that out for her if she can land something big. But overall, the striking should be Cavalcanti's world. Now, also, you're going to have to add in that, Mayra is definitely on a downturn. Over her last three, or I should really say over her first three fights that she had in the UFC, she went 3-0. She had some hype behind her. She was looking good. People were starting to talk her up a little bit. And then she, stepped up to the next level. And then she went 0-3-1. Not the greatest look, but she's facing higher level females. Raquel Pennington, Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's a very tough stylistic matchup. Macy Chiasson, who is, maybe not the highest level fighter, but it was a doctor stoppage that stopped that fight for her there. And I do think the only real path, obviously, for Mayra is going to be looking for takedowns. She needs to get the takedowns. She needs to get that control time. She needs to start to work her submission game overall. And, she is an elite level grappler, does, have the high level threat of a submission. Her issue is the wrestling. And that's something that, it's pretty obvious when you do watch her fights. It's tougher to get these takedowns. She doesn't have really that skill set, 29% takedown accuracy that she has here. But I do think where I think this goes, she crashes the pocket here. I think that she absolutely sells out to get the cage push Cavalcanti up against the fence and look for those takedowns, because there is no way that she knows that she can win this fight at distance. And also the fact that there are females that, lesser females that have taken down Cavalcanti. And I think couple those are red flags, because first you got to say the strength of schedule highly favors Mayra Bueno Silva in this spot. Absolutely. While I think this is a step down in competition for Mayra, this is a step up in competition for Cavalcanti, which I do think, is going to be interesting, because again, now we're going to see she's going to get that takedown defense really tested. But one of the red flags that I thought on the Cavalcanti side was her fight against Nora Canoli. She went life and death against Nora Canoli. That is a bad look, I think, overall here. It was 55, 54, 55, something around there of significant strikes landed. And it was very close, but Nora got a takedown with 4 minutes of control time. That starts to, open opportunities here for the path for Mayra to look for takedowns, even against Julia Avila, who not very good also, even got a takedown as well. So there are those opportunities where she can look for takedowns. She can look for that control time. She can have that submission ability here. And you've also got to add in that Jacqueline is 4-0 in the UFC. So she is on that nice run, but 2 of those wins are by split decision. Again, one of them was against Nora Canoli, where she almost lost to her. And I just do think that Mayra can test that takedown, the takedown defense, and really push for it, crash the pocket, and make it a lot more closer than this line does indicate here. I think that this is the value side is all, I think, on Mayra in this spot here. I think the minus 265 is kind of crazy on the Jacqueline side. Yes, I think that she's got the better future, that she's got the better path. But at this point here, I do think that you got to go Mayra here at this juicy plus money number. So I'm going Mayra Bueno Silva at plus 225. So there you have it for my plays for UFC Vegas. What is it? 111. 111. Next week we have a massive card. I cannot wait to discuss that card. We're gonna have a lot of plays loaded up for that week. But again, if you want to become a client, link down in the description, as well as a Caesars offer as well. And let's keep rolling. We got 5 events left in 2025, which is nuts. But let's finish strong, and I'll see you next week, and let's cash.